I wasn't very happy when I found out that some of the players that I put that was supposed to be on international duty during the preview, and that it turns out in this game they were not on international duty. And keep in mind, all those stats and footnote that I do on the preview, those sources are coming from the league website. And the fact that today I found out, or yesterday I found out that sometimes those kind of sources and that the league trying to tell the fans which players are going to be out for this game, yeah, they're not really out, and that in some way they're just basically lying to us about the fact that that guy is not available for this coming game. So this makes me wonder, should I still kind of trust the league website as a way to use my source to put some of the footnotes and the stats that I usually do on the preview? There's no doubt that I'll probably still trust the league and I'll still use the source, because there's not really a lot of source on the internet that gives the stats and also some of the important footnote better than the league website and some of the team's website. But yeah, it was very surprising the fact that the players that I put, and it's also very surprising the fact that no one actually noticed. Like, I look at in the comments section and nobody realized that, hey, that guy that you said he was on international duty, yeah, he wasn't really on international duty. And you're gonna see on this list that some of those guys that I mentioned that was supposed to be on international duty back in the preview actually contribute in terms of the goal scoring and assisting in this goal. But we start off in the first game of this 6-game weekend, match week number 16, with the Galaxy winning 2-0 against FC Cincinnati. And this shouldn't be a big surprise, seeing resort, you knew that coming into this game the Galaxy was going to be heavy favorites in this one, and they of course are going to win this one, which they did. That they of course took care of business early. They have some early chances in this game, but eventually did put the ball into the back of the net in the 12th minute when Boateng scores from Alvarez. That's actually the first goal that Boateng has scored, and that I usually don't see his name on the score sheet, despite the fact that he's one of the attacker for the Galaxy. And I guess I don't usually see himself on the score sheet is because he usually doesn't play in the starting 11, and he isn't really usually in the starting 11 for the Galaxy. Now, 3 minutes later, Alvarez scores to make it 2-0 against the Galaxy, and I put Mix-Up at the back for FC Cincinnati. And as it has been for the past couple of weeks, FC Cincinnati defense has been in absolute shambles, and that, this was just when the ball was in the box, for whatever reason, I believe Nick Hagelin and Duplant just decided to kind of have a miscommunication of who exactly is going to clear that, but instead, when both of them were trying to attempt to clear it, that ball goes right into Fabio Alvarez, and Alvarez basically scores to make it 2-0 in favor of the Galaxy. That was some schoolboy defending stuff I saw there in terms of a team trying to defend, and that just kind of sums up of how FC Cincinnati defense has been. It has not been good whatsoever, and I've been saying with this team, earlier in the season, the problem for them was they can't score. Now, it's not only they can't score, but they can't defend too. And that is why you've seen regularly, weeks in and weeks out, FC Cincinnati is just getting blown out every single game. Now, in the second half, Cincinnati did have some chances to put the ball into the back of the net, but to no prevail. And the Galaxy actually had a chance to make it 3-0, and they thought that they actually got a penalty in the second half when I believe it was Alvarez basically strike that one toward goal, and it looks like one of the FC Cincinnati defender decided to use his hands to basically block that shot away, and that I don't know how in the world that was not called a penalty, and I don't know how in the world that is not a red card. Like, that was clear as daylight. Even the Galaxy Twitter page are saying like, what the fuck? How is that not a penalty? That is as blatant as it gets. And, the good news for the Galaxy, they were already up 2-0 and they already looked comfortable. But imagine if that actually happened during an important phase of the game. Yeah, that would be very, very bad. But overall, the Galaxy, like I said, they took care of business. And in terms of the shots in this game, they had 13 shots compared to 12 that FC Cincinnati had. 7 shots on goal compared to 3 that FC Cincinnati had. 1 shot off target compared to 6 that FC Cincinnati has. 5 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that FC Cincinnati has. And the Galaxy, they had 36% possession compared to 64% possession, which that's kind of a bit surprising because FC Cincinnati, for most of the game this season, they don't dominate possession, whether if they're at home or away. But as the old saying goes, possession is not everything in soccer, and here's an example of that the Galaxy, even with less possession in this game, they still are able to win this one, and they win this one very comfortably. But moving on into the next game is the inconsistent derby, and I guess when you look at both of these teams, and the fact that, both of these teams are very inconsistent and you are not going to exactly know what's going to happen, well, sometimes that could also resort into both teams just doesn't want to show up, because it feels like this was kind of the game where both teams, with them being inconsistent, both of these teams just show their bad side of the inconsistency. And when you get that, that means that this could be a very sloppy and kind of slow game. And that is exactly what happened in this one. I'm pretty sure if you're neutral watching this would be a game that you could gladly say that you wasted 90 minutes of your life, because it was not a very fun game to watch. But this was also the game of set pieces, because in the 5th minute, Katai gives Chicago a 1-0 lead. Now, I wrote poor set piece defending from RSL, and the reason why I wrote that is because while this goal by Katai was a pretty good goal when he struck that one from a free kick about 25 yards out, I really got to question how in the world did that wall of RSL not able to prevent that shot, because that shot that Katai took from the free kick wasn't even hit very high, and they didn't even go over the wall. Like, how, I just really question how in the world did that one actually go between the wall. And then I also have to question, how did Ronaldo not able to save that? Well, actually, I will say that Ronaldo kind of got caught flat-footed there, and you usually do not see him get caught flat-footed in those situations, but in this situation he did, and because he got caught flat-footed, and I'm guessing he was trying to guess that shot was gonna hit to the right, but when he realized that it was actually heading to the opposite way, then he had to make an adjustment to himself, and by then it was already too late. That one flies into the back of the net. But overall, it was just very poor set-piece defending from RSL. Now, RSL did win themselves a penalty when Mo Adams basically handballed it. But the question is, was it actually a handball? Because when I look on the replay, it looked like when Mo Adams basically had... When that ball kind of touched near his hand, it looked like it was actually off of his shoulder, and that his hand was kind of in a natural position. But more likely, it looked like it hit off of his shoulder, and that is not a handball in my definition. But the referee gave it. RSL, of course, take advantage of that by scoring the penalty courtesy of Rusnak. That, of course, is one of the guys that I mentioned he was supposed to be on international duty. In fact, both guys that score in this game, I mentioned they were going to be on international duty, and it turns out both of them were available in this game. But in the second half, there was really no score, and I probably could have put like a ZZZZZ mark, because second half was very uneventful. And in terms of the shots in this game, both teams had 7 shots. Both teams had 2 shots on goal. Chicago had 3 shots off target compared to 1 that RSL had. 2 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that RSL had. And Chicago had 43% possession compared to 57% possession. And overall, I don't think any of these two teams is going to be very happy with the way that they play and the result. I mean, for Chicago, they drop points at home, which is something that they shouldn't be doing. And also for RSL, yes, you did get a point on the road, which is something that hasn't really happened very often for RSL whenever they go on the road. But again, it just doesn't feel like they really play well at all in this game, and that, if they would have at least showed up a little bit, at least have a little bit more quality, then they could have easily beat Chicago, because the Fire themselves also wasn't kind of showing up in this game and wasn't firing on full cylinder. But overall, you knew this was going to be a draw when you have both of these teams are just kind of not really up for it, and that if it wasn't for the set pieces, I think this one would have ended 0-0. But moving on into the next match is Dallas. So Dallas completely destroyed TFC in this game 3-0. And when I mean completely destroyed, I think that's a bit of an understatement, because in this derby of desperation, it feels like only one team was desperate enough to get all 3 points. And Dallas, of course, was the team that was very desperate to try to get 3 points in this game. And although I understand that TFC has a lot of injury and have a lot of players that's currently with their national team, and also at the last minute they realized that Pozuelo is not good to go in this game, so basically they were playing their reserve in this one. But my God, they were absolutely awful in this game against Dallas. And if it wasn't for their goalkeeper, Quinton Westberg, who made some amazing save in this game, yeah, this could have got even more uglier than 3-0. This could have easily been 6 or 7-0 for Dallas. And in the first half, for the first 40 minutes or so, that's what I exactly said, that they should have at least be 2-0 up. Like, Quinton Westberg made some very big save to at least keep his team in the game, but unfortunately that dam kind of eventually broke, because Baji eventually broke through from Ferreira. Now, I want to say that originally I felt like Ferreira was shooting this one, and that this probably should have been his goal, and that Baji kind of stabbed at it at the last minute. And I also wrote Baji was very fortunate that he was onside, because when he stabbed that one and kind of redirect that one that was gonna go into the back of the net, it looked like he was in an offside position. And if he was in an offside position, yeah, I have a feeling Ferreira is gonna be absolutely fuming at Baji, not only for stealing his goal, but the fact that now that his team is not going to be getting that opening goal because, just Baji being selfish to trying to steal a goal away from Ferreira and trying to get on the score sheet. But fortunately for Baji, he was not in an offside position, and I don't know if they actually review it. I didn't actually watch this game. I only watched kind of the highlights of this one, but it looked like they didn't actually review it, and that goal, of course, was stand. So Dallas, of course, had a 1-0 lead, and after that, Dallas continued to dominate and continued to have chances, and once again, Quinton Westberg comes up big once again. Westberg ended up saving 9 shots in this game, and I really feel bad for him, because he basically stood on his head in this game, but he just got no help, not only from the defense of TFC, but also the fact that the attack was just completely kind of incompetent for TFC in this game. And in the second half, Dallas eventually kind of broke the floodgates a little bit. Brisson scored his first goal from Barrios to make it 2-0 in favor of Dallas. Good kind of corner delivery from Barrios, even a better header from Brisson to score his first ever goal in MLS. And then Baji, of course, scores from Ferreira and Palmico to make it 3-0. And this was a lovely delivery this was a lovely sequence from FC Dallas, where Palmico played a perfect ball to Ferreira. Then Ferreira basically plays it to Baji. It was basically a tic-tac-toe kind of style of football, and that Baji, of course, easily puts that one away to make it 3-0. And that, of course, is the final score of this game, as Dallas, when you look at the stats, it clearly showed that this was just a one-sided game, and they absolutely dominated this one. They had 22 shots compared to 6 that TFC had, 12 shots on goal compared to 2 that TFC had, 4 shots off target compared to 3 that TFC had, 6 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that TFC had, and Dallas had 56% possession compared to 34% possession, and that, absolutely Dallas deserved all 3 points in this game. And I think the player, as I mentioned, that I really feel bad in this game has to be Quinton Westberg, who, again, he stood on his head in this game, but he got completely hung out to dry by his defense in this game. And, for TFC, this is definitely not a very good result, and I'm pretty sure a lot of TFC fans are calling Vanny heads right now, and that I have a feeling Greg Vanny could be the next one to get fired. I mean, if these kind of results continue to be like this, and I know this is supposed to be a rebuilding year, and that early kind of signs of them doing well was kind of just false hope, but seriously, this is definitely with the way that they got Pozuelo and that eventually, I think maybe Vanny could get fired if they decide to sign another DP kind of player or another attacking player for TFC, and that if he still doesn't get the result, then yeah, I think he would eventually get fired because the pieces are literally there for TFC to work with. Now, if they still are not showing the result, if the pieces are there, then most likely you would say the head coach is probably the reason why they're still struggling so far this season. But moving on into the next match is Vancouver. So this was a 2-2 draw between the Whitecaps and the Rapids, and a very entertaining 2-2 draw. And by the way, I of course wrote the last free game in green because unfortunately my blue marker ran out of ink, and that I don't exactly know where my black and red well, I had my red marker, but the thing is, one of the player in these last free game got sent off, so I didn't felt like using my red marker just to do all 3 games, and then I have to do I usually never use a red marker to do the review, because then if there's one player that got sent off in one of these 6 games, then it just makes it very kind of confusing, and that you get my point in terms of that. So unfortunately I did have to revert to the green marker, which means that it's impossible to see with the green marker, so I do apologize that, but bear with me for this episode only that I used the green marker, and I'll probably have to go out and buy another set because I think I have lost those blue or not blue, but the black markers that I usually usually write it on the board. But going back to this game between the Whitecaps and the Rapids, as I said, this game ends in an entertaining 2-2 draw, and I guess in this game it was really for the first third of the game where the Rapids absolutely dominated, and then the rest of the way was basically the Whitecaps turns to dominate. It was kind of like a tale of 2 halves, except it's more like a tale of 1/3 for the Rapids and a tale of 2/3 for the Whitecaps. Because for the Rapids, they absolutely dominated the first 30 minutes of the game. The Whitecaps had no answer in terms of stopping the Rapids, and the Rapids were rewarded with 2 goals because of their dominance in the first 30 minutes. First, it was from Rubio and Mosqueda to make it 1-0 for the Rapids. Then Shinishiki scores from Kamara and Mosqueda, and like what I said about the Baji goal, where it looked like Ferreira probably should have got that goal, and that Baji kind of stole that goal there. This was kind of the same case with Shinishiki. I think Shinishiki kind of stole Kamara goal there, because Kamara, when he shot that one, that was actually going to be going in, and Shinishiki basically kind of took just a bit of a jab on it. But I'm pretty sure Kamara is a little bit more forgiving for that, because Shinishiki, he's been just on a tear in these last couple of weeks, and it seemed like ever since the Rapids started to go on this unbeaten run, Shinishiki has just been one of the guys that has been contributing with this Rapids team. Then Colorado had a chance to make it 3-0 literally 3 minutes later, and Kamara had a chance to originally made it 3-0 when it was saved from McMath, but then when that shot was poured out, it goes right in the path of Nicholas Mosqueda, who has an empty net to shoot, and somehow, in some way, one of the Whitecaps defender was able to clear off the line. I do not know how in the world was that not the 3rd goal. And it turns out at the end of the game, a lot of Rapids fans will really look back at that moment and saying that if that one went in, we would have won this one. But like I said about how this was a game of kind of 2 halves, after the 30-minute mark, Vancouver completely controlled the rest of the game and just completely dominated the rest of the game, and it was basically just kind of a one-sided affair. They got to go back when Montero scores from a penalty, and this penalty happened after Adnan was brought down in the box. And then Jordi Reyna scored a lovely free kick to tie the game up at 2-2 for Vancouver in the 80th minute. I think this free kick alongside with Katai free kick is definitely going to be two goals that's going to go head to head for the goal of the week this week. Although I think the Jordi Reyna one was even more fantastic because of the way that he was able to bend that one over the wall and hits off the post and into the back of the net. And, that, of course, was the final score of this game. But one thing that I actually didn't mention before Reyna scored that fantastic free kick is that the Whitecaps had a lot of chances to actually not only get the equalizer, but also maybe score a couple more goals to take the lead, and that, they were just not clinical whatsoever. Now, a part of that has to do with Tim Howard actually had a very decent game in this one, but at the same time, the Whitecaps, some of those chances, they probably definitely should have put it away if they would have just showed a little bit more of a clinical finish. Not only they would have come back from this 2-0 deficit, but they would have won this one. Now, in terms of the shots in this game, the Whitecaps had 22 shots compared to 15 that the Rapids had. 9 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Rapids had. 4 shots off target compared to 7 that the Rapids had. 9 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that the Rapids had. And Vancouver actually had 70% possession compared to 30% possession, which I think that's the most possession that Vancouver has ever had at home so far this season. But in the end, it ends in an honors even draw, and I guess both teams will kind of be feeling a little bit disappointed out of this game. For the Rapids, they blew a 2-0 lead on the road, and that whenever you blow a 2-0 lead and only get a point out of it at the end, that does taste a little bit of a sour mouth left in the taste. And for the Whitecaps, yes, they came back from going down 2-0, and they showed the resilience at home to not be able to just getting roll over like they did in the first 30 minutes. They'll be very frustrated the fact that they dropped points at home, and also they had those chances to potentially get a couple of goals that they would able to win this one. But that being said, moving on into the next match, and this game was probably the most obvious kind of game that everybody would have predicted. Like, you knew that coming into this game with how Portland has been playing, they were gonna absolutely demolish the Dynamo, and a combination with the Dynamo just suffering players that is currently on international duty and have play important players that is with their national team in the Gold Cup. Yeah, Portland, of course, are always going to roll over Houston. But one thing that I think is going to really be at the bottom of the stack is that Houston actually had a chance to go up 1-0 in this game. Like, Houston, they didn't have a lot of chances in this game, and that Portland pretty much just dominated this game. And similar to the FC Dallas versus TFC game, this was really a one-sided game. But Houston had a chance to take a 1-0 lead when Marvin Harrison actually hits a shot off the post, and this was actually deflected, and then it hits off the post. And if that one went in and that Houston took a 1-0 lead, maybe things would have been a little bit different. And the importance of that moment was the fact that literally about 40 seconds later, Portland got their first goal of the game, and it would be also a first goal for Marvin Larea, who makes his debut in this game against Houston, and he scores for Marea and Valeri to give the Timbers a 1-0 lead. I mean, Marvin Larea, not only he scored the goal in this game, but he had a monster game, and he had a dream debut in this one against the Portland Timbers, or against the Houston Dynamo. Now, in the second half, pretty much the same thing. The Timbers absolutely dominated it. Valeri, of course, scores on the penalty to give Portland a 2-0 lead. Then Brian Fernandez scores in his 4th straight games in a row from Valeri to make it 3-0. And now Fernandez has tied the record as the player to be able to score in his first 4 games with a new club. And then if he can score another goal in the next game, then he would be the first ever MLS player to be scoring 5 straight games when coming into his new club and playing in his first 5 games. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see if he can do that, and I'll definitely back that Fernandez could do that in the next game, because he has just been a difference maker for this Timbers team ever since he come into it. And that $10 million that the Timbers are paying, yeah, Fernandez are basically repaying them, and that $10 million seems pretty much like a bargain right now with the way that Fernandez has just been a big impact to this team. Then Ebobisse puts the cherry on the top from Valeri. Valeri also had a monster game, and I have a feeling he's probably going to be the player of the week this week because of the 3 assists and also the goal in this one. I mean, so far when I look at all the other players and the performance that they have, I don't think there has been a player that has just had such a big game as what Valeri had in this one, where he just basically completely turned it on and show why he is one of the best player, not only one of the best central attacking mid player in the league, but one of the best player in the league right now. And that, of course, is your final score in this game. As the shots in this game, Portland had 24 shots compared to 9 that Houston had. 10 shots on goal compared to 1 that Houston has. 10 shots off target compared to 4 that Houston had. 4 shots that was blocked for both teams, and Portland had 55% possession compared to 45% possession. So for the Timbers, they continued to they got a win that continue their climb up the Western Conference table. And despite the fact that this team is dead last in the Western Conference, it won't take long before they would reach the playoff line, and that I can definitely see this team, if they can continue to play like this, be a top 3 team in the Western Conference. And as for Houston, there's really not much you can do about this one. I mean, I know it's frustrated the fact that they got absolutely outplayed in this game, but what can you do when you're basically missing some of your best player? And this is where Houston might have to think about what they're going to do in the summer transfer window in terms of adjusting their depth. Because right now, the Dynamo, the biggest problem that they're having right now is that they just don't have any depth in that team. Once Elise is out of this starting 11, they basically are just kind of completely handcuffed, and that they look like one of the worst team in the league if he's not in the starting 11. But moving on into the final game of this weekend, and the game that just finished about 30 minutes ago, is Columbus, or not Columbus, SKC getting a 1-0 win, as I wrote the wrong score here, so let me just change that. And before SKC fan basically panicked the fact that, hey, that's wrong. That's not, Columbus didn't win. We actually won a game. And that actually is the first ever road win for SKC this season, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people wouldn't believe, the fact that SKC would have to wait until June to get their first ever road win, especially how they're a team that has been doing very well on the road for the past couple of seasons. But they finally got that first road win against Columbus. But in the first half, Columbus looked like they were the better team, and they had a couple of decent chances to score. Tim Melia was definitely on his game in this one. I mean, he did have a couple of nervy moments in the first half, but he also made some big save to keep this game at 0-0 heading into halftime. Now, in the second half, Gutierrez gets the opener and gets the only goal of this game from Jerso and Feilhaber. And this was kind of an interesting kind of play, because it looked like this ball was going to go out for a corner, and that Jerso, well, actually it was going to go out for a goal kick, and that Jerso was able to save that ball from going behind. And then he put a picture-perfect cross back into the box, and Gutierrez, completely unmarked, was able to headed in from about 1 yard out, and just like that, SKC gets the 1-0 win, and their chances of winning would really double in the 74th minute when Harrison Alfo, who just came back for the first time after suffering that lengthy injury, and I believe was a leg injury that he suffered in the early part of the season, unfortunately got dismissed in this game in the 74th minute when he denied a goal score opportunity. And that, at that point, I kind of had a feeling that SKC was going to get a 1-0 win. And really, I think after SKC scored this goal, I had a feeling that SKC was going to win this, because Columbus, I know I heard from the announcer from the Columbus Crew broadcast said that the record for Columbus when they when they gave up the first goal this season is 0-9-1. So they have lost 9 out of the 10 games whenever they concede first, and that it's pretty much just a given now that if Columbus does give up that first goal, they're on verge of losing this game, and that is exactly what happened. And that now that record is going to be dropped to 0-10-1, where Columbus give up the first goal. And in terms of shots in this game, Columbus had 10 shots compared to 13 that SKC had. SKC, I thought, in the second half really started to create some chances after, in the first half they were kind of maybe just sitting back and kind of absorbing the pressure, but in the second half they definitely looked much better, and they definitely create some decent chances to score a couple of goals, which they were able to put in one of them. Shots on goal, 4 shots on goal compared to 2 that SKC had. 8 shots off target compared to 6 that Columbus had. 3 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Columbus had. And SKC had 54% possession compared to 46% possession. So for SKC, it's a big win for them, and certainly it's a big rebound after what happened in the last game, where it looked like they were going to get all 3 points against TFC, only to concede a late goal to drop all 2 points. This time they make sure they hold on to the lead and get all 3 points in this one. And as for Columbus, yeah, the misery just continues for the Columbus crew. And just to add insult to injury for Columbus, in the 13th minute, David Accam actually came off with apparently a hamstring injury, and that is definitely the last player you want to see to get injured for the Columbus crew. Like, they're already very short in terms of the attack with Jarzy Zardes with the national team, and Higuain currently suffered an injury. Right now, if Accam is going to be out for a certain week because of a hamstring problem, they basically have no attacking threat going forward, and I really do feel bad for this Columbus team. Like, this team, I don't think it's going to continue to improve. I think it's just going to... These are kind of the game that Columbus is going to suffer throughout these next couple of weeks, unless if they decide to do something in the summer transfer window to address this issue. And I think the biggest issue that they definitely need to address is the attack, because it's just simply not good enough this season. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of this MLS Matchweek number 16. I think either tomorrow or on Tuesday, I am going to be doing the preview for the midweek games, and there are going to be 6 midweek games that's going to be happening during this midweek, and that there are going to be some of these teams that play this weekend will be unfortunately have to play in the middle of the week. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.